Hello, welcome to another dyno run. This time, a Citroen GSA Special. Now, the owner of this car sold this idea of doing a dyno run to me, well, basically on one premise, and that is, he believes he can beat HubNut. And I said, big deal, like, so can everyone. I mean, this is everyone, and HubNut is here, and here. Where's the other one? There. But it should be there. Beating Ian is no big deal, but then I thought, hang on, I haven't actually filmed a GSA on my channel and put one on the series, and the one that Ian brought down, what did he call it? Giselle, right? The black one, was that a fair representation of the GSA? Well, he owned it, so no. If you've just come for the runs, you're better off going to a doctor, not me. But if you've just come for the dyno runs, there are chapters along the bottom you can skip. If you don't like all this talking, you can just skip it and like do one, I don't care. And yeah, that's where the runs will be. First run from the front, second run inside. And in this car, that's quite cool because the chap has fitted a rev counter to this. So the original proper rev counter. And then we'll have another one at the back at the end to hear the exhaust note, if it's possible to hear it. But for those who don't skip, hello, welcome. Secondly, yeah, this is a GSA special. The GSA replaced the GS, which came out in 1970, and, no, did it? Is that bollocks? No, it did. It came out in 1970, and that was, didn't that get European Car of the Year, when really European Car of the Year should have been? People often associate the SM with the death of Citroen. They think that the SM killed Citroen, and it is rubbish, basically. It's bollocks. It's this myth that's getting peddled around. I don't know why that is. Think about it. The SM, most of the SM, or a good 50% of it, underneath is a DS. Parts that were already engineered and proven and had been in production for a long time. And then the engine, okay, they had to buy a company to do the engine, but the company didn't cost much in the grand scheme of things, and the engine worked. Had some issues, but they didn't kill the company. The issues didn't pop up until later on. If you think about it, what else did Citroen do in 1970? They introduced an entirely new car. New platform, new production line, new tooling, new engine, new gearbox, new everything. There is nothing on this car from a DS, which would be the car that would have been around this same kind of time as this. There's nothing on it, I don't think. Let's go and look. Pedal rubbers. I take it back. Pedal rubbers are the same. And the wheel nuts. So, okay, well, maybe it didn't kill Citroen. But basically, yeah, the GS didn't kill Citroen at all. But it definitely did more damage than the SM did. It cost a lot more to put this into production. When the GS was brought out, effectively, the rumour is that the accountants went to the engineers and designers and said, right, this is a Ford Escort or a Vauxhall Viva or an car. This is what we need to make because people will buy this. It's cheap to make, good profit. Make it cheap, make profit. Simple, overhead valve, inline engine, drum brakes, nice and easy. So what they ended up with, of course, was a 1300cc, flat 4, all aluminium, transaxle, inboard discs all round, hydropneumatic suspension, and everything on it new. And they went bust. That's weird. So as I say, this car might look a little bit age confused. It has black and silver plates, which would not be period correct for the car, but I can't take the piss because I also have a car with black and silver plates that are not period correct for the car. It has these chrome, well, probably stainless actually, no in Citroen, pretty sure they are, hubcaps. It would not have had those originally, I don't think. In fact, I think this would have just had the open wheels with the nut covers on. The interior on this car is from a Palace, which is one of the higher spec cars. It is a little bit confused, but it's representative of the breed. Mechanically, it's completely original. It's apparently, seemingly in fine fettle. This is a good car to beat to represent the breed on the dyno lists on my website. In fact, we have to do that because HubNut's GSA is in the minuses. We can't have that. It needs to be on the zeros. It needs to hit the book figures, or even go above, but I don't think it's going to go above. About 130,000 miles showing, or is it miles or is it kilometres actually? This is left-hand drive. Well, I was going to put my light on, but it's not there. Well, it says 129, but we'll find out what that is. I don't know if it's kilometres or miles, but either way, even if it's miles, it's not a lot, is it, for the age of the car? The biggest issue today is going to be trying to keep this thing hot because it's quite cold, and we've taken the grill muff out. And I've taken the grill muff out because I'm going to be hammering it on a dyno, so we want airflow, but it's an air-cooled engine, so it might try and cool itself down too much. So whether we actually need the dyno fan or not, I don't know. It might be the dyno fan does more harm than good. It might interfere with the fan on the front of the engine. Speaking of the engine, let's have a look. It's kind of wild to me. You see how classic looking this car is. You could buy this car in 1986. Bit of a Morris Ital moment, although arguably this is a lot more advanced than Morris Ital. There is the, well, spare wheel, or spare tyre if you're American, but I'm not, so it's a spare wheel. And then underneath the spare wheel is, well, the gearbox, and then in front of that is an air cleaner, and underneath that somewhere is an engine, probably. But what we have here is 1299cc, so 1.3, 65 horsepower. 65 horsepower at 5,500 revs. Now, this particular car is from 1982. I think this is 82, it could be 81. But that engine was around before then. 65 horsepower for that cc is not bad. That's not bad at all. And then things get better still because these engines are so smooth. They're honestly, there could be a roller bearing crank sleeve valve engine. They're silky smooth for a 4-cylinder. Yeah, it really is smoother than you think it had any right to be. In the Panda dyno video I did the other day, the Panda 100 HP, the raffle on that is still running as I record this, but I don't know if it will be when this goes out. It probably will. I reckon it is. The raffle ends on the 31st of January. Yeah, this will go out before then. Had a Panda 100 HP on here the other day. That had a long stroke engine. Bigger stroke, smaller bore. This one, other way around. This is a much bigger bore and stroke. I can't remember the exact numbers. I'm going to put them on the screen here. Yeah, I can't remember the exact numbers, but it's basically like 2 cocktail sticks with plates on the end, moving up and down about ½ an inch. Might not be exactly like that, but it's that kind of thing. Very short stroke engine that helps with the smoothness, that helps with the balance, it helps with the throttle response. Although the throttle is a bit laggy, the engine is a bit slow to rev up because I've got a big fan bolted to the front of it. So, but it's very smooth, very pleasant. I think this would be quite a nice car to drive. You know, stupidly, I haven't actually properly driven one of these yet. So maybe we'll have to do a road test on one of these. But what I am going to do now is run it on the dyno and see if it can hit the 65 horsepower at 5,500 rev. Book figure. £70 foot at 3,500. These are respectable figures for a 1.3. A bit of a big car for a 1.3, admittedly. So they're not exactly rip-snortingly fast, but it's different, isn't it? Is it 2 CV engines nailed together? I don't know. Is it? The fuse box is the same as the DS. I've just seen that. So, right, what do you reckon? Place your bets in the comments. 65 horsepower at 5,500 revs. Will it be close? Will it be a million miles off? We are asking a car that's over 40 years old to do what it was supposed to do over 40 years ago. It's possible that it'll do it, but how many have done it so far? None. None of the standard cars have done that. A little bit of poo came out then, because it moved on the dyno. It shifted. It's the first time that's ever happened. But the numbers are on the screen. I haven't looked at the numbers, but the graph is good. And she is good. Look at that. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Wow, yeah. Look at that. It is pretty much exactly where it's meant to be, at nearly exactly what it's meant to be at, and a little bit more than what it's meant to be, a little bit less than what it's meant to be at. That's quite normal. That does happen. With a few miles go on an engine, it gets a bit more free, it gets a bit more easy free spinning, if you like. That's quite something. Oh yeah, there's a storm coming, joy. And I've got a car to pick up tomorrow, so that's obviously why there's a storm coming. That's really good. That's a lovely broad graph. That's, yeah. For 70s technology, that's bang on for a 1299cc engine. Right, let us clamber aboard. Oh, to the fan. Definitely don't need the fan at the moment. The engine's, if anything, it's quite cold. So the fan is over there thinking, what are you doing? Air-cooled engine, friend. We did take the, grill muff out. So it's driving around with a grill muff on at the moment. We took it out. Right, just putting the lights on help us with these dials? Probably not, because they're already lit up. There you go. The radio is where the handbrake is, and the handbrake's where the radio should be. Can I be completely honest? I prefer the GS interior. I don't. I'm not mad on these. It's crazy, and you will enjoy it, but I prefer the style. The GS interior, the dash is more like an SM interior. There's an SM over there. Oh dear. Yeah, that's more like a mini version of that. They're beautiful things. I don't. So, and as was the case with pretty much every GSA I've ever seen, the interior is 500 different colours. That's blue. This is green. This is multiple shades of green. That's a different shade of blue down there. Why are GSAs like this? Do they not wear properly? Are they all painted like from factory? Anyway. So there's your rev counter. It is in kilometres this, so that is potentially only 129,000 kilometres. That seems low. Right. Let's hope it doesn't skip, because I'm holding this. There we go. Yeah, I hope it doesn't skip, because I can't really hold on to the steering wheel unless I can just go straight to fourth. There we go. I can do it. I'm in fourth. It's a 5-speed box in this one. A horrible gear change, it has to be said. Right. Let's bring her up. Biting speed, full throttle, both chokes open. Twin choke carb on this one. Off she goes. Still pulling. Still going up. Now it's come down. Oh, it's such a sweet, sweet engine. It really is. And if you compare this to the Volkswagen Beetle, which was also a 1300, you know, air-cooled flat 4, no comparison at all. This is in a different league. Don't actually know if these are pushrod or overhead cam. I'm not sure. I should have done more research, but I've been too busy today working. Right, I'm going to wait for the wheels to stop before we go and look at the numbers, and we're going to do all this in real time, because I want to show you the handbrake as well. And the heater controls are all the way over there, because of course, why wouldn't they be? Right, let's go and have a look at the numbers. In fact, I'm going to do this real time. I'm not going to stop the camera. Straight out, no editing here. No. Excuse the mess. Oh, it's dropped. Oh, it dropped. But smoothed out. That's weird. Right, run 3 coming up. That'll do, pig. Well done. Good girl. Now, I've seen this number already, and this is good news, but not entirely. So, it's good news in that it beat the book figure. It's done it. By 0.6, this car is in the green. Just about. I can't remember how the spreadsheet rounds up or rounds down. Maybe it's in the zeros. Either way. But we don't have the revs because the rev sensor had a duct fit. So that's our power curve. I mean, that's a wall of torque, isn't it? I think that's what an electric car would look like. But yeah, so we have no revs, unfortunately, which means we can't get some of the figures. But it did take enough, because it would have taken the torque at the wheels and done the coast down bit. Torque at the wheels, which is obviously geared down from the engine, that's why it's higher. So it's done the coast down bit, so it's given us the numbers, but it can't do the full thing because it lost its signal, which would be this here. Bastard. But I'm going to take it. I know the dyno works, I know how it works, I know what this means, I've done this before. That's legit. That is not a bum run, that is true. I just can't tell you how many revs it's at, but the previous runs tell us that. So we don't need to worry, and it's my dyno, not yours, so up yours, I don't care. So there we go. He came to beat HubNut. No, he didn't. He came to benchmark his old car and see how well it's running. Yes. Nothing to do with HubNut. But it did beat HubNut. Considerably.